Hi, I'm Sharon Moore. I teach 4th grade at Whittier Elementary, and I must be flippin' nuts.
Why are you flipping nuts, Sharon?
Because a year ago, I decided to flip my classroom. So I have flipped instruction in 4th grade.
Okay, what's the distinction for you between flipped learning and blended learning?
Okay, a blended learning classroom, which of course we all want, and I think everybody has to a certain extent, is when you embed some kind of technology into your regular daily routine. So whether that means that you're keyboarding or you're doing some things on the smart board, anytime you interact with the kids with technology, that's where you've blended your learning together. A flipped classroom takes your instruction outside of the classroom at home. And so when you look at a flipped model, kids don't come to class and hear lecture, 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 and worksheet, 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 test, test. Instead, what they do is, and then go home and do homework. What they do is they go home, and the homework that they do is the lecture. So they watch a video with the concept, then they come back to class, and we do the activity that helps them understand. So we go to the application part, because a lot of times we can do the instruction part, but we can't ever get to the application because we don't have time, because we've got to keep doing all of this instruction. This way they're introduced to it at home. Well, we introduce it in class, they go home, they watch the meat of the lecture through video, through song, through maybe an article that they have to read. Then they come back to class, we review those concepts, and then we jump knee deep or neck deep into whatever activity is really going to solidify their knowledge of this subject.
Okay, so what do some of those application learning activities look like in your classroom?
What will happen is, let's say when they go home and they watch a video about maybe one of the mathematical practices, or maybe one of my objectives or standards in math. So they'll come back and we will, instead of relying on a parent to help them understand how to do the algorithm, or how to do the explanation, or how to even compile the information, we have time to actually do that. So maybe we'll spread graph paper on our laminated graph paper on our tables, we'll get out our dry erase markers, and we'll put a challenging problem that's going to take more than just knowing the algorithm and getting the answer. That's going to take going through that logical process. So we are creating problem solvers, not just an equation solver. That's one in math. An instance in science might be they might watch a video introducing them to ecosystems, and then we come in to our classroom, we talk about what makes up an ecosystem, and we get to build an ecosystem. Whereas we wouldn't have time to do that if I'm still teaching them what is an ecosystem.
Yeah, exciting stuff. So what do you see as some pros of flipping and then some cons of flipping?
Definitely a pro of flipping is that you have time for your investigations. You have time for your activities. You have time to do all those things that you wanted to do, which is why you became a teacher, that you haven't been able to do because you've been inundated with all the testing, and to match the testing we've got to increase and really, drill and kill, and you don't have time to do that. By doing it this way, you have time for those things, and the kids have fun. They need to have fun in school. They shouldn't be leaving our classroom going, ugh, that was so boring. Instead, they should be saying, oh my gosh, we have to leave. Are you kidding? Can we do this again tomorrow? That's the kind of thing that you want to instill. Challenges to a flipping classroom, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, but you have to take baby steps. Last year when I went to a conference by mistake, not the conference, but I didn't even know what I was going to. I didn't know what flipped learning was. I had heard a little bit about it, but I sat at a conference and I heard one of the instructors telling me their reason for flipping, and I felt like she was like looking at me in the mirror, because those were all the things I wanted to do. She had the same frustrations. But she warned, she said, take baby steps. Don't leave this conference thinking, I can go flip my whole classroom, which is what I thought, because I thought I was Superwoman. And I discovered really quickly I wasn't Superwoman, that it takes a lot of work. You have to make your videos, you have to find your resources, you have to know what you're measuring. You still have to use the same standards and objectives. You don't just throw any old video on there and say, okay, go home and watch this, and think that they're going to learn from it. You have to guide them through what you want them to do. And so last year I decided, okay, I'm just going to flip my math. And so I took a step back. But yet then I found that once I got into the swing of how I flipped my math, then I found that I had figured out how to do it. Now I would add a few things here and there. So then I started adding science, and then I started adding some Utah studies. And so this year I flipped my math, I had already flipped my math instruction, and then I flipped my science and my social studies completely. And then I find that I'm even throwing things in, not complete flipping in any way, but I'm throwing some things in for my students in language arts as well. And so I'm finding that I'm using it a lot more because I'm feeling more comfortable with it. I'm nowhere near there because I used other people's videos, and I have some that I've made and a lot that other people have made, because I don't believe in reinventing the wheel. If it's there and it's good, use it. But there is some research that shows that your kids do better if they hear your voice. So I'm going back and changing the ones, especially the ones that I felt like they didn't quite get, that were a little more difficult, so that they hear me and see me, and not just, Bill Nye or some strange guy telling them the concept.
It's their teacher, their own teacher,
Exactly.
teaching them. Okay, so what technology do you use when you make your videos? Is it smartboard recording? Do you use Screencast-O-Matic, or what are you using?
Last year, through Donors Choose, I got a really nice video camera and a tripod, not knowing that my document camera could be used as a video camera. So those of you that don't have a really nice video camera, you can use your document camera to produce some decent videos. I went to a flipping conference this summer, and I learned about some of the programs that are online that I can use. I've only dabbled with a few of them. I'm not as proficient on them as I want to be, but that's what I'm working on. So right now, a lot of the videos are just made from the video recorder, and then I download them into my YouTube channel, and then I actually, because I want to actually assess them, not just have them watch it, then I will create my lesson. Most of my lessons are created through TED Ed. So if it's a non-math lesson, most of my math lessons are created through LearnZillion. Most of my non-math lessons are created through TED Ed. I tried Canvas, and there's nothing against Canvas, because Canvas is a marvelous system, but I felt like it was not user-friendly to an elementary level student.
Sure.
And so TED Ed I found was really useful. It allowed me to show my video, ask the questions, so they had to answer questions. They participate in the discussion, and there's also links for them to find out more, because I have those students that want to know even more about it, even though they don't have to, and then I can put all of those links there. Nice. And then I can track it, which is what I want to be able to do. You don't just want to have them go home and watch a video. You have to track what they know. You have to look at all of that information before they come to class, so you can see who did the homework, how did they do on the quiz, so you get an instant, picture of what they're coming into the classroom with. Otherwise, there would be no purpose in flipping.
Right. So TED Ed does have some tools to track. What outside of TED Ed, do you give your students a graphic organizer when they're watching a video at home? Do they take notes?
I do.
What about questions?
I do. Everything that I give them a graphic organizer so that they know how to follow the sequence, because a 4th grader and even a 12th grader doesn't necessarily know exactly what to look for. What you don't want them to do is look for the question and then scroll through the video and just answer the question, because that doesn't help them at all. And we go through the process, and I realize that I'm not an idiot. I know that there are some kids that aren't going to follow the procedure, but they know that they are supposed to watch the video all the way through once. Then they go back, and they can stop it if they need to answer the questions that they want to do. So they have a graphic organizer that takes them along. It doesn't have the questions on it. Those questions are going to come up on the video, and so then it's going to correspond with what's happening the second time they go through. Does that help? Not, in TED Ed, that's how I work it with TED Ed. Learn Zillion is a lot different because, yes, I give them a graphic organizer for Learn Zillion, so they're knowing what to write where. And Learn Zillion is so nicely linked to the core, so all of the standards are there. So one, the videos are really easy to find there, but they also have differentiation set up for you already. So those higher students, you can have them looking at a higher level and working at that level that they're at. And you have those students who've never been introduced to it at a level where they can start grasping and understanding. And then you have those middle of the road kids who are like, oh yeah, I get this, I understand this. And then they also have, in the Learn Zillion, they also have guided practice. So not only do they go through the video and they're able to fill out their graphic organizer and understand what's going on, then they have practice. So then there's a guided practice video that takes them through actual problems. And so then they can practice doing those problems with them. You know, the really cool thing about a video that you can't do with a teacher, even though we say you can do it with a teacher, is you can't pause. You can't pause the teacher and the teacher just goes, and you can't say rewind and the teacher somehow goes back and repeats it. The video, they can, because you know that there's that 5% in your class that's keeping up with you. And I talk very, very fast. And my kids know that if they're getting behind, they can ask, Miss Moore, can you please slow down? And they know I'm not going to get offended if they do that. However, there are times that you know as teachers that we say, I don't have time. We're running out of time. Right. Come on, you guys. Come on, you guys. And with a video, you don't have to do that. I would rather be saying, come on, you guys. Let's get this project finished instead of, come on, you guys. I have 3 more points I have to get across before you leave or before we shift gears. So that's the nice thing about that video is that pause, that rewind, and that we can go over it again and again if we don't understand the concept.
You said earlier that you have to look at all the information after they've used TED Ed so that you're prepared the next day so that you know what they're doing and where each student is at and if they did the homework. So when do you do that? Just being practical, do you do that in the morning before class or late at night?
Both, depending on, I have kind of a unique classroom in that in 4th grade, I do a block schedule. So Mondays and Wednesdays, I teach math and science. Tuesdays and Thursdays, I teach language arts and Utah studies. And then Fridays, we do coding and then everything else. And then every day we keyboard and we read. So that's just how I split it up. So what I do is on Mondays and Wednesdays, I teach math and then science on Mondays. On Wednesdays, I teach then science and then math so that I'm balancing out my instruction so that I'm covering everything I need to cover and I'm doing everything I need to do. So depending on what the video is and what it is I'm looking for and the concept that I'm teaching will depend on if I'm looking at it the night before or if I'm looking at it. And it's not necessarily the night before. My kids get their assignments way in advance. So like their the math videos that they have to watch next week, I post them on, today's Wednesday, and so I will post them on Thursday because I will have been able to assess, okay, where are we, how have we gone, and then I'll post them on Thursday. That's not due until Monday or Wednesday, depending on which video it is. So it just depends on what it is, and it's not like there are 30 questions. There are like 5. And so, and those 5 key things, did they really understand that? And so then when they come in, that's the first thing I address is I get a feel for where they are because we can't do this project if they don't understand this. So, but they might understand 4 of the 5 concepts, and so I may need to touch on that. Does that make sense? Okay.